getting a late one in here. All right.
Copy link. Oh, why I want to delete? Fuck is wrong with this thing?
All right, we're back good here.
Oh, yeah.
Double checking. We have double checking.
Are we better now?
Yeah, we're solid. If you refresh,
Okay.
if you refresh Twitch, it
Yep.
should be.
No, I
should be
see
all
it.
good.
I'm watching from. I'm seeing everything for restream actually.
Yeah, we're solid. 60 frames. No drop frames. Rocking 6100 up.
Looks like the episode titles are good. We should have that. That should be on our. Do you have the startup checklist?
Yep.
That is that on the list?
It is.
To check stream titles.
Yep. Show enough.
Yeah.
All right, let's cut this music and let's get this beach going because I know you're ready to go nighty night.
I'm actually feeling pretty good right now.
Oh, that's good.
All right, awake now.
Standard mandatory warning. This is for our podcast. We record the streaming, or we stream the recording of the podcast, so you might see us mess up or anything like that. If you do have questions, always feel free to put them in the comments, and we will get those questions answered either during the podcast if time permits, or after the podcast, and we'll shoot the shit with you. As always, looking forward to talking to everybody. As always, if you have any comments that you want to leave in the description, please feel free to leave them in the description. You can also find us at agm.cx if you're not following us on all of our social media platforms. So really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Really appreciate you guys just taking the time out of your day and spending a little bit of time with us here on the podcast, and hope you guys enjoy it.
Yep.
All right, we're going to go ahead and roll this beautiful beam footage. Going to go into the intro here. In 3, 2, 1. What's up, Game Geeks and Tech Junkies? Welcome to A Gaming Moment, a weekly podcast about everything gaming and streaming related, including the news, tech, and software behind it. Be sure to follow us on
I'm sorry. Can you, you pop there in the middle of podcast? Can you just reread it?
Yep. What's up, Game Geeks and Tech Junkies? Welcome to A Gaming Moment, a weekly podcast about everything gaming and streaming related, including the news, tech, and software behind it. Please be sure to follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram so you can engage with us, as well as find out when we're streaming the podcast and get a first listen before it goes out across all of your favorite podcasting platforms. I'm Dagan07, and with me, as always, is Wild Twins fan. Wildy, how the hell are you this week?
A little tired. Been working a bunch of extra hours. Nothing you're used to, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
You know, talking to Dagon, he's been crushed this week, and I've been crushed this week, and this is my one time to get this podcast in, and we're gonna do it. We got a big topic this week. So we're just going to hold to the one major topic this week, and it is a big topic, Palworld. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, the game, the gameplay, and then is it infringing upon Pokemon? That's the big question. Got everybody up in arms and whatever, and so we'll talk about that and our spin on that. We also got a couple banter items this week. I'm going to talk about a big one, Google Podcast going away, and kind of what that means for you, a podcast listener, if you happen to be using Google Podcast. And I don't think Google Podcast is terribly strong. I think we see the most of our listeners from Apple and Spotify, but
yep,
there's a couple out there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Twitch payout changes that we covered last week. We talked about this could happen, and bam, it happened. So just we're on the vibe and kind of talk a little bit about that for you guys and what that means, kind of where you're at and for changes. And talk about another big layoff, unfortunately, with Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, Xbox employees. A bunch of people got the axe there, and that's unfortunate. And we'll talk a little bit about, I don't know if this is even going to be a new genre of gaming. It kind of seems like this is a hot topic on gaming, but we're going to talk a little bit about a game called Body Cam. And maybe this is the next trend coming in gaming. We'll see. We'll see if it takes off, but a lot of games coming out now looking like this game. So we'll talk about that.
sounds good. Hey, Wild, do you have a noise gate on?
I do. You think I'm popping or cutting or what?
Yeah, you can, because I can hear your background noise, and then when you're not talking, there's no background noise. Like it sounds like do you have your fan on?
My fan is on, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Should I just turn my fan off? Would that help?
Probably.
Do you want me to say that any of that again? Do you want me to reread that?
No, you're good. I'm sure I can clean it up in post.
Okay.
All right, dope. So yeah, Wild, Palworld's kind of been the talk of the entire gaming world right now, just because everybody's like, oh, it's a Pokemon knockoff. It's this, Pokemon should go after Palworld for copyright infringements and what's it called? Not proprietary, but like, there's a lot of similarities between the characters or the creatures that they create and a lot of the Pokemon. So
I think it's the most blatant looking stylistically that we've seen to kind of be almost Pokemon like in art style. Yes.
So if you guys aren't aware of what Palworld is home to over 100 unique pals, quote unquote Pokemon, each equipped with a diverse set of skills to enhance the player's adventure, quote unquote Pokemon. Along your journey, you will also encounter formidable boss pals that pose challenge for even the most seasoned pal tamers or Pokemon trainers. Naturally, these boss pals are also capturable with a Master Ball.
Okay, but all that said, I mean, on the surface, right, it kind of seems that it's a straight ripoff, kind of Pokemon, but there are significant changes, and I'll argue that there's only one point of real contention for me to say this is really trying to infringe upon maybe what Pokemon's doing right, but I don't know that they're infringing upon anything that's legally enforceable. So
yeah,
there's some shades of gray there. So let's just talk a little bit about that. So Palworld, the same kind of deal here. You do engage in battles, but the battles are significantly different than Pokemon, and capturing pals is similar-ish. So engaging in a battle with Pokemon, you never actually kill anyone, right? You feint them. I don't think there's any death in Pokemon. And in Palworld, when you fight things, they die. And then you can harvest them for meat, for food, for leather, for whatever scraps. And that's not Pokemon. That's very significant change from Pokemon. It makes it a very different game. So Pokemon. So let me read this here. Palworld seamlessly integrates the elements of battle, monster capturing, training, and base building. And the players wield a range of weapons. A lot of people like to call this game Pokemon with guns. That does make it significantly different than Pokemon. So it makes it a whole different game. And there's no one that'll argue. I don't know that anyone's really arguing that, man, this gameplay is just like Pokemon, because it's significantly different, and that does carry a lot of weight. So they have a range of weapons from bows, spears, to modern assault rifles and rocket launchers. The process of capturing pals involves strategically throwing a sphere with a higher likelihood of success when weakening the target. That's similar-ish to Pokemon, but that's a gameplay mechanic. And that's also not really an enforceable, effort. You can't really enforce a gameplay thing. It's like you can't enforce, well, this player's walking. That's just like Pokemon. This guy's walking. That's an unenforceable area. So, there's a lot of that. And I think that's what people are starting to kind of confuse. But you can capture pals, and then they become powerful. You can capture pals, and they become powerful allies. Oh boy. You can capture pals, and they become powerful allies in combat, each possessing distinct abilities and skills, even amongst those of the same type. You can also use those pals to help you in building your base and actually in automating your base. So you can put your pals to slave labor, right? Pikachu is just laying around. He's never doing anything. He's pretty much Snorlax, just chilling. Oh no, these players here in Palworld, they're going to work for you. And again, that's a significant difference between this and Pokemon. I don't know if you want to jump in and say a part here on like the open world multiplayer is another.
Yeah, the other thing that they have going for it, Wild, is that they have an open world multiplayer, and that's something where I think Pokemon wanted to get to eventually. I mean, if you think about any of the older Pokemon games, it was pretty much like an open world concept, 2D concept to begin with, but it didn't have that like open world multiplayer kind of aspect to it where you're going to go meet other players and battle them right then and there. I mean, shit, I remember back in the day with my old Game Boy, we had the Game Boy Link with the little IR thing or the cables. That was about as close. That was about as close as you got to any kind of multiplayer on that. So I think with that does add a different dynamic to the game. And the CEO of Pocket Pair, who's the company that owns and created Palworld, he denies allegations of plagiarism, but the Pokemon Company is currently investigating the issue at the end of the day. I mean, yes, it shares some elements, but it differs significantly in terms of survival, crafting, and the technical aspects. And there is fair use. We've had a couple listeners tell us about there is fair use laws, and if this is the case, Wild, like if Pokemon really wants to go after Palworld, like then they should be going after the likes of like Digimon or insert random anime that uses monsters and stuff.
Any game, any game where you can cancel, any game you can any game you can catch monsters, But that's the other thing too, is Pokemon's not the first game that you can catch monsters, right? So they don't really have a leg to stand on there. But again, that falls back into the whole gameplay and the gameplay mechanic that you can't really, you can't copyright that. So you can't say catching monsters is a Pokemon thing. Now you're ripping off Pokemon. No, it's a gameplay mechanic. And that's been challenged in court, and that's very clear in court and case law that's not challengeable. You can't say hunting, a hunting game is Pokemon.
Yeah.
You can't say Call of the Wild is Pokemon. It's so there, there's just unenforceable things there, and I think people, you get a lot of armchair quarterbacks because the game on the surface looks a lot like Pokemon. A lot of the characters, let's be honest, this is the line that they toe, and this is the one area that I do think they could be in a bit of trouble with, is that some of their Pokemon are not significantly changed enough to really tell the difference. And so like court law, like the Tetris had a famous battle where there's another game that came out and it was very Tetris like, and they were like, well, gameplay, if it plays like Tetris, that doesn't mean that's fine. It can play like Tetris. But the problem was stylistically, if you squinted, you really couldn't tell the difference between that game and Tetris. They didn't look significantly different. And so the style and the artistic stuff of the game was ultimately what won Tetris that case to say that this game was infringing upon their copyright or whatever. And the thing with Pokemon is they only have really like the Pikachu is really, I believe it's like Pikachu is really the only character that stylistically is really copyrighted.
Yeah.
And so they have names trademarked and copyrighted, but they don't really have photos and the designs of the character. And there is a character in the game in Palworld that does strongly resemble Pikachu, but he is slightly different than Pikachu. Kind of the same powers and stuff like that. Like if you see him, you'd be like, oh, this is Palworld-Achu, but so they're treading some lines there, but ultimately the game is significantly different. So it's hard to to me it's very clear, and it is, I think, to most people that if you picked it up and started playing this, you wouldn't be like, what version of Pokemon is this? You'd be like, this is it almost looks like a weird version of Fortnite to me stylistically too. So it's
the animation style.
Art, and art style is another thing that you can't copyright. You can't say it looks like Pokemon. Yeah, it can. So there's some things there, and it does use Unreal 5, which Fortnite uses.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different mechanic overall, but I think overall it's been pretty impressive. People are loving this game. Like, it's in beta, it's early release, it's all that, and people are just loving this game. And
yeah, I mean,
I think
we wouldn't even be talking about this game if and the backlash or the limelight that this game has gotten, we wouldn't even be talking about this game. But man, it's had crazy success. I mean, it sold over 8 million copies in less than 6 days, dude. Like the biggest freaking, one of the biggest freaking sales on the Steam library. Not to mention that if you have Xbox Game Pass, you have it on there too for free. You know, you're not paying anything extra for that. And you know, we've been talking about like how much it is akin to like Pokemon. Well, there's a lot of other things that it's akin to as well. I mean, it's akin to like Ark Survival and then Valheim. You know, there's elements of each one of those games in there, and you don't see those games, you know, causing a big stink, or you know, the community trying to raise a big stink about it for these games. They're really trying to, like, I guess, focus on, I guess, the animal cruelty kind of side. You know, you know, if you might have heard of you might not know the name of Palworld, but you might know it by Pokemon with guns. Essentially, like I can't tell you how many times I've
a lot
heard
of people
that.
like to say that. Yep.
Yeah, it's like it's basically Pokemon with guns. And I mean, the game is still in early access.
And in fact,
too.
the devs went on record to really kind of say the same thing. They wanted to create like Pokemon with guns, but again, that makes the game significantly different. So, I mean, that's allowable. And you know, if people said, "Hey, this is like Pokemon with guns," that's an admission that the game is significantly different than Pokemon. So Pokemon doesn't have much room to argue things. Again, there's could be some fine lines there on some of the characters and stuff might be very close to Pokemon things. So they, you know, whereas they're not straight up maybe copyrighted, but they could be, you know, infringing upon, you know, some of the
intellectual property.
Intellectual property. So I think they're kind of open there a little bit to that. But I mean, they are not one for one. But you look at some characters and you be like, that's that character from Pokemon. That's that character from Pokemon. So you know, that could cause them some trouble. But in the same likeness, they are different enough. The question is, are they enough different to differentiate? So yeah, there's some of that, but overall people are really loving the game, and it's just a different dynamic. I think they kind of picked, it's almost like they cherry picked some really good elements from current games and put that together in a new game, which happens all the time. And it seems like they've done a really good job of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, take your stream to the next level with professional overlays from Nerd or Die. As proud affiliates, we recommend their eye-catching and customizable designs to make you stand out. With animated templates, alerts, panels, and logos, you can achieve a polished, high-quality look that wows viewers. Easily customize colors, add your branding, and include the info you want. Nerd or Die makes it simple to create an overlay exactly how you envision. So treat yourself and your community to an engaging stream centered around a slick, modern overlay. Level up the quality and energy with just a few clicks thanks to Nerd or Die. Just visit agamingmoment.com/nerdordie today. What are you waiting for?
So dropping into banter this week, Dagon, we have Google Podcasts making a big change. And I think you're kind of hot on this topic here, so I'm gonna let you kind of speak to that.
Yeah, so Google, like what Google does, Google likes to come out with stuff and then retire it, you know, after a few years. And that's basically what they did with, or what they're doing with Google Podcasts. It's retiring later this year, and it's going to be consolidated into YouTube Music. So the transition process for users includes a direct migration to YouTube Music, or exporting a backup file for third-party apps. And what's crazy is 23% of weekly podcast users here in the US use YouTube as their primary app anyway. So they're already consuming podcasts on a platform that is not a podcast platform. It's a video platform, which is why we stream our podcast to YouTube as well. And
we're live on YouTube right now, and you can watch this on YouTube anytime afterwards.
Exactly. And only 4% of weekly podcast users actually use Google Podcasts. So it's more Google reallocating resources. Like, okay, we've dedicated a bunch of resources to this, but in the ROI, the return on investment is just not there. And YouTube Music offers, the background listening, offline downloads, synced progress across devices, your standard stuff for the same thing like what iTunes has. So it's going to create a more consistent experience across your devices if you're a Google device person. And like us, we're always looking for ways to have more exposure to other markets. So this also gives potential exposure to new audience for podcasters on YouTube Music. But the content must adhere to YouTube's guidelines, which a gaming moment definitely does. But there are some alternatives out there, but we recommend like Spotify, but there's a couple like lesser known names out there like Pocket Casts and AntennaPod, each with their own pros and cons.
So for me, it's like, I think this is just logical, honestly. Like, why did Google even have podcasts? Because to me, this is just Google being Spotify. It's exactly the same thing to me. To me, this move makes absolute sense. Why would you separate audio into a different app? Why wouldn't you just have it all in the same app like Spotify? So Spotify, you can get your apps, your podcast right there. You listen to your music right there. It does everything right there in one app. And Google, you'd have to use two apps. And you know what? That's just messy. That's clunky. It's probably cost them more. It's a different app to support. And it just makes sense. Why wouldn't it be in the same music app as music, just like Spotify? So I think it makes sense to me.
Honestly, yeah. I think Apple might go the same route. I mean, if I remember correctly, then this might be a little bit before I can remember like what podcasting was. I think podcasts was initially in iTunes originally, and then they separated podcasts out into a separate app. So I could potentially see Apple putting, integrating podcasts back into Apple Music potentially, but we'll see. I mean,
I think it's logical. I think it was like podcasts were new, so they could be their own thing. Mm-hmm. And I think now it's just logically they're not new anymore. People know, generally people know what a podcast is. They may not listen to a podcast, but I have conversations all the time and telling people about our podcast. And I try not to be the proud dad and tell everyone about, if they ask me about my hat or
shit I did,
or I mean, I try not to be, but I'm obviously pretty passionate about it. I got in a big conversation the other day with a waiter at a local restaurant, and it was just it's really cool, like to see someone else passionate about gaming and that really was brought up in gaming and stuff like that, and so I think podcasts now they're out there. They don't need their own source, and people know they can find them. Of course, you can always find a link to our podcast from our website or at agm.cx, and for all our links. So I don't think it should be too big of a change, but a lot of people are pretty hyped up on the topic. But I think it's just, again, in my head, it's a logical change.
Yeah. Another, I guess, logical or maybe not logical, depending on what side of the fence you sit on, is kind of what we talked about last week, Wild, like with Twitch doing all these rearranges. Literally, I think a day or two after the podcast went live.
Crazy. Yep.
They announced Twitch payout changes. So the Partner Plus program that was introduced back in October of 23 will be expanded. And there's a new level introduced for streamers maintaining 100 plus points for 3 consecutive months. That qualifies them for a 60-40 net revenue share on paid and gift subscriptions. Twitch is still keeping all the 50% of the revenue or most of the revenue from ads, but if you have paid or gift subscriptions, you get an extra 10% off of that. Woo! And go ahead.
And affiliates can qualify for the program now, which is huge.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a new level introduced for streamers maintaining 100 plus points for, the plus points threshold for the 70/30 net revenue share level has been reduced from 350 to 300. So they're making it a little more attainable. And then, like Wild said, affiliates can now qualify for the program, and the program name is changing to Plus Program from Partner Plus Program, because since they're now allowing affiliates to qualify for it, they're just dropping the partner out of it. Another thing is they are eliminating the 100K cap on net revenue at the 70/30 revenue share level, which is big for the larger streamers, right?
Yep.
And that was effective immediately. The previous cap limited earnings and growth opportunities, and that impacted, like I said, and we're talking about a handful of streamers, like the top 1%. And I say handful, tongue in cheek. I mean, I don't know exactly how many there are that make over 100,000 a year, but they're making way more money now, which I'm sure they're super happy with Dan Clancy with that.
Yep.
And I think
that was controversial to change that. I'm glad it came back to those people.
Yeah.
So
I think the one that affects most people, Wild, almost everybody on Twitch that is in the affiliate program and up, is they are transitioning from the current model to a fixed rate model for Prime Gaming subs. So those free subs that you get, this is going to be effective starting June 3rd of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Rates are to be published annually with updates as required, but the change is expected to have less than a 5% impact on revenue for most streamers. Essentially, you're not going to be getting $250 anymore per
Twitch Prime sub.
Yeah, Twitch Prime sub. You're going to get like $225 is essentially
in the US.
Yeah, at least
like the US and Canada, and I think some countries in Europe, but it's pretty radical. Like if you don't live in the US, Canada, you should probably be aware. I don't seem to have many listeners in Africa. There's probably a little bit of a language barrier there for most of Africa for us, but some of those countries are taking there's a massive difference, and I don't know how big Amazon is in those countries, if at all, but I was seeing some that people were getting like 13 cents for a Prime sub
ridiculous.
now. On like Angola or some, I'm not even sure where that is. Not geography, maybe not my strong point, but and then like Brazil and stuff take a bigger hit, and so it's interesting to see in some of those other countries. I think I don't remember off the top of my head, but if you go to Twitch, you can see the payout per country. So if you're not in the United States, Canada, which I assume a vast majority of our viewers are, but Europe is obviously a little, there's different countries in Europe as opposed,
we get quite a few German
stuff. So we've seen a pretty good showing in Germany lately. So yeah, there's a little bit of that, and so if you're, in those countries, then just be aware of that, because the change could be somewhat significant. I was just looking for whatever reason. Ukraine took a pretty bad beating.
Huge hit. Yeah, huge.
Yeah,
hit.
take a huge hit on their revenue.
Pennies, man.
Yeah, so and I don't know. Again, there's another argument: how many people in Ukraine are streaming, and how much are the Prime subs really, making for them. But the American dollar can be pretty strong, so it's hard to say how much impact. Apparently, Twitch says, it's only 5%, or it's a minimal impact, is what they're trying to say. But I have a feeling it's more significant than they say it is. Because if it was only, 5% overall is a big number when you're, Twitch's size, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like personally, I'm not too affected by it. I mean, it is what it is, but this is a better outcome than what I had initially expected. If you would have listened to the episode last week, we were kind of worried that they were just gonna up and with it, and
Yep.
the creator was gonna get screwed. The viewers were still gonna get the perks of being a sub, but the creators were gonna get shafted with, getting the revenue taken away. But at least they came out and they squashed that bug, and they're still acknowledging the importance of sustaining the business to ensure Twitch's presence in the long term, which I get. We've already talked about how they're not a profitable business. Papa Bezos is all about making his money. So, Amazon's been footing the bill for quite a long time now. It's time for baby to move out of the house and start taking care of itself. So I get it.
So I mean, the other thing is too, I want to take back a little bit of what I've said previously too, and I wasn't real impressed with Clancy when he came on in the first part, but it seems like he's doing he's doing some tough stuff. So I mean, that's never going to be always favorable. He needs to ensure the profit of Twitch, but it seems like he's trying to strike that balance of keeping, of getting the Twitch streamers profit too.
Right.
I mean, there's a little give and take there. I think he's doing a pretty good job of it. I do like his upfrontedness, and he's live all the time. He's on other people's streams.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty accessible. Again, the previous Twitch CEO, Emmett Shear, I didn't even know his name until he retired. Yeah, I didn't know his name until he retired. So Dan seems to be doing a pretty good job. So I know I was critical of him in the beginning. I think he's got a tough job to do, for sure. So it's not everything's going to be positive with that, but I think he's towing a pretty good line at the moment. So I'm just favorable to that, and I just wanted to go on record and say I think he's doing a decent job of that. So
yeah, and then we've talked about like Twitch and Unity and all these other gaming tech companies basically dropping employees, cutting a significant portion of their workforce. And Microsoft this last week laid off 1,900 Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox employees. That blows my mind. To like, who's making games? Who's monitoring the anti-cheat over at Activision for Call of Duty right now?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And again, they primarily affect the Activision Blizzard employees after Microsoft's acquisition. So maybe it's Microsoft cleaning house, because we've talked about in previous episodes about the turmoil that was going on inside Activision's walls. So maybe this is part of cleaning out and trying to reset that culture. I don't know, but they cut about 8% of the overall Microsoft gaming division. And then there was an internal memo from Phil Spencer confirming the decision to reduce the gaming workforce and emphasize alignment on a sustainable cost structure. So that's that's all of tech's like reasoning for all of these cuts, is we have to have alignment on a sustainable cost structure because the macroeconomics right now aren't sustainable for big tech and high tech companies. A lot of the banks that the big tech companies are using are going out of business, or they're losing a ton of money. So, everybody's cutting back. I get it. I'm in the industry. I've been through it. Blizzard's president, Mike Ibarra, and Blizzard's chief design officer, Alan Adam, are leaving the company as well.
I mean, the writing's probably been on the wall for that too, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have probably waited to get some sort of severance. I mean, we've known a couple people from Microsoft that, they got some pretty hefty severance packages. I'd be all down for that, and then take a year off because the severance package is so good. Blizzard had a previously announced survival game that has now been canceled, and some employees will be shifted to other more quote unquote promising projects. And there's been other announcements from other tech companies like Riot Games. Discord actually had some layoffs, and then eBay had some layoffs on top of Google and Twitch and Unity and stuff. So, I mean, it's disheartening because I know what the market's like out there for a lot of these developers, like these now freelance developers. I mean, the market's so saturated with people with talent, and there's not enough jobs to go around. So like my heart goes, like if you're a game developer and you're affected by this, or if you're a developer or in marketing or any of this for any of these companies that are getting laid off, man, my heart goes out to you. I've been there, I've done that, I've avoided, fortunately, but I hope you land on your feet soon. I hope you got some sort of really good severance package off of it to at least last you till you can get to your next job. But the darkest is always before the dawn kind of deal, and you guys will find something that will be better than what you were in. So our hearts go out to you, and hope you get back up on your feet soon.
Yeah, I did see a post. I think it was a Reddit post, or it's a recap of a Reddit post, and the person that just started there had been there, and they were like, I'm on like a dream team, got kind of a dream job, and they were 4 months in that they had this job that they moved across the country for, and they had this kind of a dream job with a good team and everything, and they got cut, and it's like, man, that hits me. It doesn't affect me in any way, but emotionally I feel it. So again, heart goes out to those people. I hope the industry, I don't know if there's part of me that was thinking there would always be some trimming down, because when you consolidate two companies, there's got to be some overlapping there of people's abilities and such. Mm-hmm. So 8%, a pretty big number. 1,900 people is nothing to sneeze at. Unfortunate. Hopefully we can be through the major layoffs, but probably not. But hopefully they're thinning up, and people can get on their feet again.
Yeah, absolutely. And another topic we've been kind of talking about lately, we talked about, how we started playing Ready or Not, and we talked about, what was the other game that was like this game?
Unrecord.
And now we have another game called Body Cam. So Body Cam and Unrecord, very, very similar games, but it's kind of a new genre. I mean, it's like these body cam style video games where the movement is really weird. I was watching somebody play Unrecord and watching somebody play Body Cam, and it's like, when you're moving your mouse, it's a little different than what you're used to with a first person shooter, because when you just move your mouse, you expect a full turn. Well, no, you're moving the arms, and you have to move your mouse even farther to actually turn your body. So it takes a little bit getting used to, but this is again, just like Unrecord, a hyper realistic first person shooter game. And it's what's crazy wild is it's been developed by just 2 developers, and it utilizes Unreal Engine 5 for realistic graphics. And while I know you've seen the trailer for this, man, it is crazy. It's really, really good.
Yeah, and there's even some gameplay out there. Again, I subscribe to Jack Frags, and he's always, he's big, so he gets in on everything. Everyone wants their game on Jack Frags' channel, and he does a good job about treading the line of what's good, what's bad, and without being too harsh or too overpromising on a game. And watching his gameplay, really neat. Looks really lifelike. I mean, I'm just thinking like, man, like COD, if I could play like Search and Destroy, and that's ultimately, I think the game mode they're playing was pretty much Search and Destroy or something like that. It was a 6v6, I don't know, something kind of one team versus the other team with rounds and stuff like that. So I mean, it automatically piqued my interest just because I like playing games where your life matters. I don't like team deathmatch where you just spawn and die, and because your life doesn't really matter. And same with PUBG, your one life matters, and so I think it's pretty cool. But I'm just starting to notice this trend of these body cam games, or these body cam footage games, and even COD 2019, Modern Warfare 2019 had introduced the body cam. It's one of the views you can spectate your fellow teammates in, and most people probably don't get to see it a lot. If you don't play something like Search and Destroy, where you can be dead for a couple minutes each round, waiting for the next round. But that body cam thing's kind of coming in. So anyways, I just thought this was another really promising game. At first, I thought it was unrecord, and I was like, oh, okay.
Very
and
similar.
Then even today, now I think I've kind of caught the buzz of this game too. But there's another YouTuber. It's this Blue Drake 42, fairly big YouTuber. He's got just shy of a million subscribers. I just subscribed right now, 971K, and he's got a game that he's been working on. It's a little bit open world sandbox-ish, I think, and they're kind of letting people make what they want out of the game. But another game where it really looks in that same style of that body cam, a very realistic war game. So and that game's called Operation Harsh Doorstep. Harsh Doorstop. And so kind of a terrible name, but maybe we'll get there. They're still working on it, but another game now kind of on my radar. I'm gonna watch this a little bit. I know they're really working hard on developing these things. So I feel like this could be a new genre, a new so it's something to see. Seems to be a good push on this. Man, it'd be amazing to see PUBG 2. There's rumors flying around of a PUBG 2 lately. I don't know if anything's substantiated in any shape or form for that. But if you got something hyper realistic like this for PUBG,
Ooh.
insane. I mean, it's like Tarkov, but Tarkov is not. Again, Tarkov's a little bit grindy for me. Like to go in to collect things to extract. I don't feel like if you extract, I don't feel like I won. You could go in and not battle or fight anyone and win. I guess you can probably somewhat do that in PUBG, but not really, So I don't know. I just think it's really neat. It's neat to see where these games are coming and where they're going. And I gotta imagine these things are going to be CPU monsters and GPU monsters, and they're going to eat up, our quote unquote modern PCs.
Oh, man.
And 10 years from now, they could be awful amazing. So
I'm having issues just with Ready or Not, man, and that's like, there's opportunity with Ready or Not. I mean, they already have like the helmet cam thing, which I think is a really, really cool vantage point. I guess Call of Duty has the same thing, right? They have a helmet cam.
Yeah. They don't have it like Ready or Not's cool because you can have like the mini cam up of your teammates, or you can switch teammates and stuff, so you can see like a live feed from your teammate. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I could see them making like a VR version of this game, and using I don't know if they're using Unreal Engine 5 or anything like that, but I could see them making a VR version of this game, and it'd be really, really similar to it'll be really, really similar to Unrecord and Body Cam. So
see, the other thing is
it's a new
the
genre.
The kicker is I think Unreal 5 is actually fairly. I think that's one of those. I think we covered it. There's a tool out there that can make kind of any game VR.
Yeah.
Just kind of like a quick plug-in type thing, and it kind of works. And we're talking about that, but it kind of gets access, and it wouldn't really work on a game that's got like actual like antivirus, or not antivirus, like anti-cheat. So I think the potential's out there, and these games would be nutty. There's already some VR games like Ghost of Tabor, like Contractors, Pavlov. Those games already got quite a few players on them, and but they're still a little bit cartoonish. But again, once VR is an amazing thing. I introduced a buddy to VR this past week, and he was interested in a golf game, and so I shared that with him, and he didn't know what to think, at first, and I was like, I can't explain it to you. I cannot do VR justice. You have to put the, hold on, I got my cough here. Sorry, I tried to mute my mic.
All good.
So you can't do VR justice without actually being in it. And it's, even though the graphics can be a little bit cartoony-ish, just the immersion is so immense on some of those games that a game like this, like if you can get something kind of realistic, use a hell of a GPU, I think, and then a good headset with really good resolution and fast refresh rate would be, I think, amazing. And even like amazing tool for like training and stuff, like if you police departments or SWAT teams or firefighters or you name it, like all the potentials there. Imagine something with the resolution and the power of the Apple Vision headset running like a game like Body Cam. Could be crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited. Some people will call this a new genre, some people won't. I'm going to call it a new genre, but whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, I really, really like it.
Yep. A lot of potential.
So guys, don't miss out on all the fun. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to join in on the conversation and catch a sneak peek of our latest episodes before they hit all major podcasting platforms. Plus, stay in the loop on when we're streaming the podcast. Excuse me, I just.
Yeah.
Don't miss out on all the fun. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to join in on the conversation and catch a sneak peek of our latest episodes before they hit all major podcasting platforms. Plus, stay in the loop on when we're streaming our podcast live so you can be the first to tune in. Trust us, you won't want to miss a minute of the action. So, Wald, what do we got here for our social media post of the week?
We kind of covered this one already, but just a post from Palworld. And this is just about a week ago, advertising they got 8 million copies sold. So haven't seen an update yet. I could probably search elsewhere, but just in a 6-day launch to have 8 million copies sold for a game that kind of, I do believe we covered Palworld in a previous episode. Yeah, like a long time ago, and I don't know. It'd be difficult to find exactly what episode it was, because it was just I know it was like a half-ass mention about upcoming games for this year, but I think I underestimated the desire for people to play Pokemon with guns. And I bought the game. I've not had the time to play it. But yeah, so Twitter post. We'll share that on our Twitter, X, whatever we want to call it. Can somebody tell me what it's called? And we'll go from there. And then rolling in from the social media guys, we'll have question of the week. And I think we've kind of covered these a little bit, so we're not going to beat you up too bad with them. But just the question, for you guys out there, reach out to us, talk to us on whatever platform. Drop into our Discord. I mean, if you really want to like real time talk to us, most of the time, if you post something in the Discord, we're pretty on it. One of the three of us, Nell's not here this week. He too is getting crushed at work. Surprise, surprise. Notice a theme here in corporate America. But let's just talk a little bit about the ongoing debate with Palworld's similarities to Pokemon. What aspects do you think make Palworld stand out and be unique from Pokemon? And how do you think it can evolve or differentiate itself from Pokemon better? So, Day, you want to take a crack at that?
I mean, like I said, we've already talked about it. I mean, they've done a really good job with just changing the game mechanics. I mean, just the name,
Yep.
just the secondary name of Pokemon with guns, done, right?
Yep.
Now, could they make it artistically different? Yeah, sure. I mean, I have a whole
Maybe.
list of Pokemon that are similar, of pals that are similar to Pokemon. I have a whole list.
Yep.
But again, is that really enough to claim copyright infringement? Is it really that much? Does the look of them make the game that much similar to a Pokemon game? No, I don't think so. I mean,
yeah, there's games out there right now that look like Hearthstone. Every card game looks a lot like Hearthstone, and Hearthstone looks like other games, and it's like every time I see a game, it's like, is this Hearthstone? Like that was the one card game I ever played, and every time I see a card game, I was like, is this Hearthstone? And it's like, oh no, this is some other game I've never heard of. That's exactly just like Hearthstone. So yeah, I don't think they have a lot of room to argue. And the one part we didn't cover, and I was going to mention before, but someone made a mod for Palworld, like right away made a mod, and the mod was straight up Pokemon, right? Like change the players, change the characters to Ash, and all the Pokemon were straight up, and that got insta fucking lawyered up. Pokemon insta took that down. So the fact that they haven't done that with Palworld says that, to me, that says that they're probably going to be okay. And it's funny because I even mentioned the story to my kids, and my kids are 15 and 17. They're old enough now, but the first thing out of my kids' mouth is like, don't they know Pokemon will sue them like instantly, kind of type thing. And it's like, the more you look into it, they got pretty good ground to stand on. I don't think Pokemon's, you're going to be arguing some pretty tough points in court, and if it's worth it or not, I don't know. I guess they are looking into it. Pokemon has acknowledged that they're considering just looking at the game and stuff. So I think it's already significantly different than Pokemon, and people are loving it. And people still love Pokemon. So and I don't see the people that are loving it saying this is the Pokemon I always wish I had. They are loving it for what it is and for what it isn't. And so I think it's already differentiated itself. Again, another one of those things, unless you step into it, I don't think you fully recognize how different it is. Then it's not just Pokemon with guns.
And the other thing we have for you guys that we want to hear from you is with the recent Twitch payout changes and the introduction of the Plus program, how do you anticipate these adjustments affecting your streaming strategies and engagements with your audience? Do you have any concerns or positive expectations? So, we'd really like to hear from you guys. Feel free to reach out to us on social media, or hell, like Wild said, you can reach out to us on Discord. Again, you can go to agm.cx and find us. Find all of our social media platforms, as well as a link to our Discord community, and we'd love to have you there.
Yeah. And again, I think I think this is going to affect more people. It just doesn't affect me because Twitch is a hobby of mine, and I stream for fun. I'm not streaming to make money. I'm not streaming to make a living. I'm streaming because it's fun. Streaming to build a community. If money comes out of it, that's ever secondary. I have a job, so I don't need Twitch to provide for me. But I hope that a lot of people that are in that middle class where they're just kind of making it or just kind of struggling or whatever, I hope this can give them a little bit more of a boost. I think this is potential with some of these programs to help some of those middle to small streamers a little bit better than previous. So, yeah.
So, guys, thanks for joining us on this thrilling gaming journey, exploring Palworld controversies, Twitch updates, and the hyper-realistic world of body cam. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you want to take your support to the next level, head on over to our link page, again, agm.cx, where you can find our Patreon, where you can help support the channel that way. Or if you want to get some timeless classic merch, the link for our merch site is there as well. Or you can just visit merch.agamingmoment.com. Damn it. Or you can just visit merch.agamingmoment.com. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, guys, keep grinding.
All right.
All right, cool. I think we can end, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the title.
I'm definitely talked.